G'day, punters. Welcome to a big, strange edition of the Mailbag Preview Show. We do apologise for running a little bit behind time. We've had a few tech issues here in the shed, but looking forward to getting stuck into a big show. As always, brought to you by puntingform.com.au and our friends over at baggybet.com. If you haven't downloaded the app, there's a link below. Download the app and get involved. As always, gamble responsibly.
Friends.
I will throw us over to the team for the day. Shane, as you can see, is live in person. How was the trek down, mate?
Yeah, it was great, James. Great to see a bit of countryside, and the 2-hour trip to get here was about the same time it took me to fly here from Brisbane. So
here we go. What?
It was brilliant, and apologies to everyone at home for the production quality. Basically, if Jack stopped laying winners, we'd be able to squeeze a bit more out of him for sponsorship money to put up a decent show. But here we are in the shed at Seaford, and it's great to be here all the same. And I'm never coming back.
And Jack, how are you, mate? How's the week been?
Week's been phenomenal. Full credit, Field of Roses. Great run yesterday. Should have knocked off Mink's Moment, who I think is a good horse. Full credit to Shane. Apparently what it did to that bus on the way from Toowoomba to Brisbane will live in infamy for everyone who was aboard that bus before. But glad he's here. Glad he got a haircut. Pistol taught him a thing or two about fine
Melbourne.
Proper drinking last night. And he took out the intern as well. So stayed well clear of that, as did you.
Yes.
And we're here fresh. We were prepared, hoping to deliver on the couch sort of special from the shed, but a few technical difficulties have completely and utterly that up for us.
And here we are.
Well, real tight. This reminds me of.
Have a look at
this. Reminds me of the Gold Coast this year in January when this hungover, sloppy mess was sweating, and in between us, where you are, no, were you in the middle?
I was in the middle. TB was
next.
TB fat shamed me in the back of the cab, and I never want to be this close to you blokes again unless we're on our way down to an Airbnb at Mornington or somewhere.
Well, we'll move on from that. Look, we don't have any horses to sell. Off the top of the show, Jack did mention a great run yesterday, Field of Roses. Unlucky, savaged the line again. I believe he's going to a race on Melbourne Cup Day. So that's bloody good for the owners.
At this stage, Field of Roses Cup Day, Willow booked.
Lovely. So
the greatest.
A very, very cheap buy, and these owners are on one hell of a ride. And our other flagship horse, Keats,
chance of Oaks Day.
Chance of having another run on Oaks Day. So the mailbag bloodstock side of things is flying. As always, we're coming into that season. So if you got any questions at all regarding the bloodstock, Jono, Jono at themailbag.com.au. Now that's enough of that. We're here to talk horses. We're here to talk the two big Group 1s. This is Moonee Valley's time to shine. So we'll kick off with the Manikato on the Friday night, the 1,200 metres. We'll have a look at the market here. Now, this is live. All of you who are out there watching, Jack is going to take you on. We are going to have these prices up for the next hour while the show is live. So as we're going through them, I'll talk the true price, what they are now. And then as the boys talk through their form and what they want to do, Jack will wind some of the horses out for you guys out there. So if you haven't, click on the link below, download the Baggy Bet app, because these prices will only be live for an hour. There was plenty of action on the live chat service for Baggy afterwards, watching back the show, but these prices are only for the next hour. So we'll get into the Manikato, the big 1,200 metre weight for age Group 1 there tomorrow night.
Gamble responsibly, though. If you download the app, make sure you gamble responsibly. 1-800-858-858. If you have a problem, gamble responsibly.
And the Manikato market. So we've got the Godolphin Sprinter Palele at 360 heading the markets. Kieran Mars, brilliant little mare, I think. Balanipatina at $5. Rockin' Horse is in good form.
You're rocking an horse, I'll tell you.
Yes, 26. Coolangatta, Group 1 winner last start at $6, which Jack did lay, Shane, hence why we're all crammed in on a kitchen table in a shed.
Didn't see a video on Twitter when that one.
Rothfire, the Queenslander, $6.50. September run, $19. A Group 1 winner at this track and trip. 11:11, the interesting runner at 17, and sort of write your own ticket. The rest, we'll have a look at the speed map. And Jack, what's the speed map telling us?
I think Coolangatta has to kick up from one and hold a spot, but the astrologist and Best of Bordeaux are fast horses with wide draw. So Timmy Clark on Best of Bordeaux can sort of dictate the tempo here a bit. Like if Jamie jumps and wants to go, he decides how hard the tempo is. Like if he gets outside her, does he want to just sit there or does he want to take her on and put her in the coffin? Rothfire is a fast horse too, but I think they sit off him from that. Like they got the grouse barrier here, barrier 5. I don't think they have to get involved in the speed battle, but they could. And the same story, Paul Ailey. Rothfire and Paul Ailey are the two PR horses map-wise here. I think Bella Nipotina, if you like her, you're going to talk yourself into barrier 2 is really, really good, and it probably is, but there's a chance that she gets flushed out the back here. Like she was very good, not suited last start, but she's going to be thereabouts in run. And then the rest of them, I'd really like to make a case for Rockin' Horse. We'll get to that later on, but just where he lands in run's really, really tricky. And the Inferno is sort of same sort of story.
Always an interesting speed map at Moonee Valley, especially in these.
And like you said, the sun's shining right now.
Yeah,
it's absolutely perfection in Melbourne right now. Shane's like, it's going to be a good 4. He's been saying that all afternoon.
Well, it was going to be a good 2 when I was sitting on the boardwalk this afternoon at South Bank with me and Matt Barker drinking white wine. I was getting the sunburnt. We had to go get shade. So, like, I just can't see how
Barker
I could possibly get 20 mils of rain tomorrow. But
it happened to us last week. We sort of overplayed the heavy conditions.
We did.
It wasn't as heavy as we thought. So, I think the responsible thing to do is to listen to the bomb and anticipate sort of a soft 7 track here, soft 6 track. But each your own. You do you.
We're not allowed to call it the bomb anymore. What's the Bureau?
The Bureau.
Well, what we're going to do, we'll probably just replay the Moya a few times, but we'll play it first here. And I think the first horse we'll talk about is the winner, Coolangatta. Sort of got all the favours this night, didn't she?
PR, blessed in run. There's Zoo Style outsider. Zoo Style fought pretty hard against Paul Ailey, who's back and not suited here. They've both had a run since and went really, really good. Paul Ailey's so strong that she got through Ollie whipping in the head twice and still found the line. They're the key references. Rothfire in this race, Shane, you tipped it, you backed it.
I did.
And was maybe 5s in the 350. It was a complete and utter steamer. You're hanging a heap of shit on me about Coolangatta, but it was like $5 out to 7, and I laid it all the way out to 7.
Yeah, and the second horse should have won, and it was a great ride on the second horse. I wouldn't like if Rothfire's going good enough, you could argue that he just pushes Bella Nipotina out of the way and makes its run. But Bella Nipotina was going better than it, and it was able to keep it boxed in. So, like, obviously, that night we spoke about track bias and Coolangatta, getting a good run on speed, jumped a length in front, basically. Like the race was, not say the race was over in the first 50 metres, but for her to ping like that, like, they had no option but to lead, really. So threw the map out the window.
It was a rare occurrence too, because it was like $4.40 out to $7, which normally means they're going to miss the start.
So I'm not penning the form or anything like that. What I think out of that race, what I've seen there is Bella Nipotina was the run of the race out of that, and Coolangatta had all the favours on a night where obviously being on speed was an advantage. So there's an argument to say that's not form outside of Bellatina coming out of that race.
Do you pay any attention, respect to the horses that were worse in midfield and just sort of not suited? I mean, we saw Paul Ailey, who couldn't catch him from where he was in run, come out and win a good race up to 1100.
Yep.
Now we're up to 1200. We're a little bit worried about the track, but more often than not, Friday night, this carnival, it's mad on pace. So how do you handle that?
Well, I think the horse that determines like tempo and map is really the Casey Fogden runner there, Best of Bordeaux from the wide gate,
who I think is a massively underrated trainer.
There's no real option for that horse other than it's going to go forward and it's tough. It's a tough on speed horse.
Do you like Mellon to Tim Clark?
it's not a negative
I think it
considering
almost
its
suits it.
racing pattern. It's not a negative at all. I just don't know because it's a 1,200 meter race. I just don't think it's that clear cut. Like there's got to be other horses that are going to push forward on the night. And obviously we'll see with weather. There's a little bit to play out on that between how the track's going to play and how I think will determine how much tempo. But that being said, Best of Bordeaux's best races have been on speed, and it's tough. So they have to ride at the same.
The last win at Randwick was on a swamp that they abandoned an hour later.
But is that a negative?
No, I
running
think
on that swamp.
It's one of the progressive 3-year-olds. We saw what I didn't think was out of progressive 3-year-old come out and win the Moya just because it was a fresh horse on the scene that can put itself into a race. This is the same setup. I think she's a really, really good trainer. If you look a little bit deeper at Coolangatta, she was the 7th fastest last 200 meters of that Moya. That was over 1,000 meters, so she was stopping. Now, very scared the colt, the almost 30 days between runs. It's actually a positive for them. Sometimes when you're doing numbers 7 days a week, if they're more than 3 weeks between runs, they might have missed a run and like what went wrong. We saw that with one of our horses this week. But with them, it's a positive most times. And with this horse, it will be. Do you think she gets 1,200 meters?
I think they will ride her with a sit to try and get 1,200. That's what I think is her best chance.
So you're saying I should lay her?
Well, she...
Righto.
No.
Right. Talk me, not.
Well, if you're saying...
If you're laying her last start on a leader-dominant track...
At $7. I'll lay her at 7s. What is she now? 550,
$6
$620
across the board.
$620 the exchange. Let's go $7 for the rest of the show. If you want to back Coolangatta, come get some. We're $7 Coolangatta right now. Jamie Carr, Mark Eustace, barrier 1. I think she's a slight concern 1,200 meters, and I think they might think like what you're saying tactically. Let's take a sit, and I think that's to a detriment.
Well, it really depends on the start too, because we can do all the maps in the world. I didn't think that she'd hold up from gate 1 last start, and she jumped like a length in front and had to lead at that point. And then you had Ollie on the other leader, who's not a leader,
and he was digging in it to keep up.
So, I mapped at Coffin. I think Best of Bordeaux has to push on and take the front, and obviously
I'll tell you just off topic. I know like you were the first one at the mailbag with the shows to bring in ring lighting. I don't know what you've done at home, but you are looking outstanding tonight. Like you look like you've been in the sun for 3 or 4 weeks. Beautiful Italian gladiator tonight.
Yeah, look,
I'm the lighting.
No, look, I'm a very attractive man for my age, Jack. It's just that you normally see me in hoodies and tracksuit pants and stuff. I made a special effort tonight.
You're looking very, very good.
Appreciate the sentiment. I know you don't mean that.
No, I do. You're looking outstanding.
Well, that
smells good too.
It does smell good in here. Well, that's
which you and I.
No, we do.
But look, I don't think the race ends there. Like it's not a map race for me. This is a 1,200 test, and it's like unless we see a pattern on the night, this is not a map. This is like there's some decent horses here that are going to sit off speed.
Yeah,
that can get into the race for sure.
So let's have a look at the replay of the Moya again, and we'll dial into one that I know you're pretty keen on, Shane, Bella Nipotina. So sort of just talk us through the closing stages here.
Look at the tactical ride here. I'll keep Rothfire in a pocket. I reckon he thinks he's winning here. Yeah. Rothfire was going half good enough to push him out of the way and push her out of the way and take that run. Just straighten up so I can hit you with the stick is what he's thinking here. Stops half laying in, pulls the stick. Coolangatta was
blessed.
It was blessed, but at the same time, I'm saying that like as a trainer, you've got 2 in the race, and this is drawn 1 on a track that suits, on a distance that suits. Yeah. She's probably their best chance in the race. The second horse has run enormous, and she's very consistent. The second horse, I think it was as good a run in the race as anything. I've said that 1,000 times, but the gate's going to be the interesting one because if Coolangatta does kick up to try and lead, does Bella Nipotina get pushed down to the fence from gate 2, and then if something crosses, if Best of Bordeaux does cross, can win from 3 back the fence at Moonee Valley.
Yeah, that's where my head's at. So like I think most of what you say makes sense, but there's a chance, like you've said, that Coolangatta gets crossed, and if Bella's half slow or just with them, she ends up 3 back the fence over a 1,200 metre Group 1 weight for age race at the Valley, and I don't want to be there. The seas may well part, and it's Willow, and the mailbag bloodstock. We love Willow, one of the great human beings of all time. Good things happen to good people. We saw that last Saturday in the Everest. But do you want to be 3 back the fence? And do you put that in your price?
I've priced the race.
He's thinking he's got lines going through his head. He's not sure if he can.
No, I've priced the race, and Bella Nipotina's a double figure chance if it's 3 back the fence, in my opinion, because we've seen this over and over again. Group 1, tight racing. No one wants to be widest around the corner. They're all not necessarily laying in, but they're all like trying to hold them. You see what Willow did there on Bella Nipotina last time, trying to keep Rothfire in because that's the camber, and they're trying to.
I think the problem Bella Nipotina has is Rothfire and Paul Ailey have the PRs in this race.
And if that's what happens, like Palali's not getting held up from that draw.
But also,
it's momentum.
But also, he's not worried about like getting going. He's on a very good horse. He'll start favourite here. So like he's not going to like go early and open it up the race. Like those horses are cast.
So I think listening to you two, then, isn't there enough question marks at the $4.85 on Bella Nipotina?
You want me to?
Like, I'm just listening to you and just think, especially you, Jack. I know Shane's sort of keen on it. I think there's enough question marks there to go.
But to be honest, this is the same thinking I had with Coolangatta. If she's half slow from the inside draw in the Moya, she's going to be back and buried.
Yeah.
She pings her lids, and it was very grim for me the whole race. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't good.
So is there any one of those, I mean, obviously that nothing was running on from the back in the Moya. Is there any of those, your September runs from the back that can run on in this race and get over the top of them?
Definitely. This is a completely different race. And if we go back over that Moonee Valley card, later in the night, they were coming down. They were making ground. Definite chance of that. And it really depends on what happens with the speed map here. Like, it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that they say, we don't want to lead from gate 1, 1,200. We're happy to sit coffin and Best of Bordeaux rolls across. And then what will happen is with the map is that you got to, if that's what you think is going to happen, well, then what's taking off at the 600 or at the 500, and then how far back are the widest runners going to be, and what's riding for luck. We've seen September run perform.
Could be a 3-wide line here.
Yeah, very much. And if it is, I thought Palali and 11-11 were the two that are just going to be running line. 11-11 possibly following Palali. And like, if I'm, I don't know, if I'm Jay Bowman, whoever that is, I anticipate that he's following J Mac, and like following J Mac is the obvious play for me, because he's going to get Palali out at the right time.
100%. It's like driving a Tesla.
Yeah. So that's how I see it. Well, I know this is a 14-horse race, and we've talked about 3 horses probably. But I think either way, Best of Bordeaux will be leading or outside Coolangatta. If Best of Bordeaux is outside Coolangatta, neither of them can win. I'll say that.
They'll just chew each other up, you think?
Yeah.
So that's exactly how Jack's mapped it.
So that leaves Palali and 11-11.
And what about you, Queensland love? Do you give Rothfire any?
I was a critic probably through Pocket Talk on Rothfire's early runs in the Winter Carnival, but what I did do is underrate the trainer probably, because like I obviously bet in Queensland all the time, and I back the Heathcote horses to be fit and ready off trials because they trial hard, and Rothfire failed first up, and then I penned him, and then he's gone and run some great races, and probably in the best form race that we've seen early spring through the Stradbroke. And it's a similar sort of profile, isn't it? Like he's had how many runs back now? He won first up admittedly, but he's had a couple of runs back now, and this is the race they've been setting for. I know that he had a lot of phone calls. I know that Rob Heathcote said that he lost his phone, and that's why he didn't return the calls. But I know he had a lot of phone calls from the Everest, from people that are interested in the horse for the Everest.
Slot holders.
And he knocked it back for this race. I also know that he brought a new Mercedes for his wife for 100,000, and then someone hacked his emails and sent him a payment request. So he's paid for the car and then gone to pick it up. And when he's gone to pick up the car, they said, well, you've got to pay for it before you leave. He goes, I've already paid for it. What's happened is someone's hacked his email, scanned him. They've got 100 out of him. He had to pay for it again.
What a scream.
Now, the same thing happened when he brought Rothfire. He brought it twice. So I was half critical about this horse, and I'm happy to look into the camera and say I've got this completely wrong. And I would not be shocked at all that this horse is it's grand final day. Yeah. Grand final day. And if Coolangatta tries to hold Best of Bordeaux wants to lead, as you said, Rothfire with the PR will be in the finish.
And a big SP edge versus many key rivals here, which is, I think, a massive forgotten thing in this race. Rothfire's yet to win beyond 1,000 meters though. Well, won once at 1,100, which is why I just think
he ran third in the Stradbroke to Alligator Blood when he led. He went enormous in that race. I thought he raced huge in the Kingsford Smith. That was 1,300. This is a very similar type of profile. And for those listening, they might have picked up on it the last time I previewed this horse running. I actually thought the Moya was 1,200, and we had to re-record the show because I said, Rothfire up to 1,200 it's time. He's had 2 runs. I trust the stable. I trust it's ready to go, and it's a definite chance. As I said, I suppose either way, what I'm saying is I don't think Coolangatta can win either. I just don't want to agree with Jack. So Rothfire, 11-11, Palele are going to be the closers if Coolangatta tries to lead. I don't think they'll try and lead though. They've got their Group 1 with it. It doesn't have to lead to win Coolangatta to be its best winning chance. What do you think? Does it have to lead to win?
Yeah, I think it does. It needs to control the race, find the fence, kick on the corner, and hold on. And if they ride it with cover because it can't get 1,200 meters, well, then the horse they've kind of given up the horse before the race has started. I think that Paul Ailey has a proper edge versus a number of these. I was wrong about Rothfire has won twice 1,200 meters. It's just the data hadn't come through on my honeyform.com.au, which is a database we all use and you should too. I just think Paul Ailey, with the best rider in the world, and it's got the best barrier for the night, 4 to 7 is going to be red hot on Friday night. He's got the ESP profile just outside Rothfire. He wasn't suited. He come out and won 1,100. He's had that other proper foundation run last start. They could have easily gone to the Everest with the horse, but they sent in Gratiating, who he knocked off. Now it went no good. But
you have to back James to have made the right decision there,
but also to get this map right. All the stuff we're talking about, he's going to be sitting there smoking the pipe.
Yeah,
he's going to be in the slot. I think if you're betting to the race, you need to be with Paul Ailey for sure. I think if they run on, Rockin' Horse is massive overs, but you want to see some evidence they've made ground before the race kicks off. So you're going to have 6 races tomorrow night where you can make a decision on how they've been hitting the line and where they've been winning from. But if they're running on, Rockin' Horse has an SP profile versus the good horse, the Queenslander / New South Wales horse that ran second in the Everest, Private Eye. He SP'd real short against him down the straight at Flemington. I think Rockin' Horse is the best of the roughies outside of Best of Bordeaux.
Is that the same race that Private Eye was $9 moral?
Yeah, that's the same race. It's actually the exact same race.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it could Rocking Horse could be $12 or $212, depending on the track, for sure.
And I think if you want to argue Coolangatta and Best of Bordeaux, I think are fair prices. I just like the outside draw and Tim Clark on. I think he suits the horse. They met each other in the Golden Slipper where Coolangatta started real short, but Best of Bordeaux did beat at home. So
any rain certainly wouldn't dent Best of Bordeaux's chances either. Obviously.
So should we roll our top 5 after all that?
we'll roll our top 5. But before we do that, is there any that you want to roll out for the punters, Jack? I mean, you've rolled out Bella Nipotina for the next sort of hour or so.
Well, Jack's basically given 3 horses a chance, so he should be top odds every other horse.
Yeah,
if he's serious. And then he'll completely piss his pants when it rains and they're swooping. So this will be good. But James, I think we're going to go to the Manikato and Jack's going to stay home and work. So
yeah. So
$7.50 Coolangatta. If you want some, come get some. Very fair, like very juicy price. It is sort of $5.50 most joints, $6 a couple, short of the exchange.
that's fair.
Rothfire is, there you go. We'll go $7.50 it.
In your bed.
And well, we tipped it, but should we just give you it? I'm going to give you it $4 Palali for the next hour. I think it's a great bet, but yeah, why not for the show?
So what we'll do, we'll have a look at our top 5, and we'll go through some of the prices.
115% currently in the Manikato.
Jack has wound out. We have a look at Shane. I mean, he's had a few wines today, so he doesn't quite look like that. But when he landed yesterday, that was.
I'll tell you a true story, James.
That was the rig.
I slipped into Peter Jackson this morning, and because none of the suits that I own fit me anymore, and I've had to buy a black suit because I'm off the Derby day, and I looked like a black mass, like a ball of black.
Did the suit man give you any feedback?
The suit man looked at me and gave me 3 different sizes to wear, and they were all too big for me. So he's like, he's really hammered me mentally, and then he's done me for 770, and then sent me to the place that Taylor. There was another 70, yeah. And he goes, mate, if I was you, what I do is I eat 1 meal a day and drink red wine.
There we go. We're giving out.
Anyway, so yeah, my top 5 was based on
so we'll
go
grab
back to my
Shane's
slide.
up.
Yeah, so my top 5 was based on Coolangatta and Best of Bordeaux, particularly
chewing each other up,
rolling along, and there's a couple of it's not without a chance that horses like the Astrologist or something else wants to be forward, and I just thought Bella Nipotina, 11-11, and Paul Ailey are those that are in the slot. Running on, and I thought, obviously Rothfire and September Run is the typical Waller grand final.
James, talk us through your top 5.
So we'll go my top 5. We'll bring it up. Go to it. September Run has won the Group 1 over this track and trip. Just put a pen through the last start there. Nothing was running on in that race. That was just going around for a look around. Bella Nipotina, like Shane or Jack mentioned, very honest, always in the finish, gives you a sight. If I could bet it baggy, I'd be jumping on now and taking some of that $4 that Jack's wound or Laley out. I think, we'll be right in the finish. Rothfire, like Shane said, grand final. I think it can improve and peak, and also Rock and Horse. So the boys both spoke about sort of September Run and Rock and Horse. They're both the roughies at overs there, and like you said, if they're running on, getting off the rail and running on early tomorrow night, they're the 2 that I can guarantee won't be starting at $26.
And we'll just roll Gab's top 5. She couldn't be here tonight, but she's with Bella Nipotina on top from Coolangatta, Paul Ailey, Rothfire, and Rock and Horse. So Rock and Horse is a bit of a sort of theme, isn't it?
It is. And I want to point out too that my photo and Gab's photos on these slides are actually us, where James is clearly a parody.
Yeah. When did you take that photo?
And Jack's top 5.
I'm with Paul Ailey. I think he's bomb-proof map-wise. I love the extra run between that he's got against the Coolangattas and the Rothfires. I do concede that Rothfire, who's my 3rd pick, could well have been like he won the McEwen and he wasn't expected to do it. He was soft in betting there, whereas he's really firm to start after. That doesn't mean the stable was ready. I think they might have taken the foot off and got him cherry right for this. So I think 1,200 meters is his best trip. Bella Nipotina will go so close to winning if the map goes to plan, but at the same time we spoke about it could just go to shit. I think Coolangatta will be thereabouts and like stick on. Just don't think it's a genuine like 550 chance. I think it's a big risk, and I think Best of Bordeaux at a big price can run around them and give a big sight.
So we'll wrap up the Manikato, which is the first Group 1 of the weekend, to kick us off tomorrow night. As Jack said, he's wound out, well, the top 3 in the market anyway, Palele, Coolangatta and Ballinipatina. So if you're keen on any of them, click the link below, download the Baggy Bet app.
Gamble responsibly.
Get involved. Now, we've got a little competition like last week before we head into the Cox Plate. So we've got 4 Cox Plate winners there. We'll give you a minute or two. Put your answers in the YouTube chat, not just one winner this week. The first 5 correct answers will have something in their Baggy Bet account. We'll reach out to you after the show. So we'll give you a minute or two, but I'll ask the boys.
Have they put up, is that the horse I think it is?
Top left?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
That's not sweet.
Shane, what's your favourite Cox Plate memory?
The last Cox Plate I went to, James, is my favourite memory. I went down there with my wife's uncle, Bill Knights, who's like a country racing Victorian stalwart, and I was blind.
Really?
And he drove me home.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine being like,
I was a boy.
Imagine like Shane's dating your niece.
And
you're driving him home for a couple of hours.
I was a dead. I was a.
Fucking hell.
I had a couple of Uncle Bill, as he's known to us, was that's where I started getting into racing, had a few shares in a few horses that he bred. Anyway, Terry O'Sullivan used to train, and one of them won at Vic Park, James, which most of the viewers wouldn't even know that Vic Park existed. That's how long ago it was.
Isn't that where Collingwood played?
Yeah,
it was, but it was a track in Adelaide as well. Anyhow, so I was blind and I had $100 on Lonhro, which at the time was a big bet because there was death taxes and Lonhro, right? And I was eating a hot dog, spilling sauce down my shirt after it got beat. Couldn't believe it down the dump.
I love you.
Looking for something in my pocket. Pulled the ticket out. Realised I backed it 100 a place. Copped the $1.10 on the tote. Collected me $10. Apart from that, obviously, there's been some great races and some great fields. And obviously, looking back over the race, I said this to Mark Roden actually last night. I asked him to smack me in the face because I fell in love with racing again, watching a few replays last night about the Cox Plate and how excited I was to be back in Melbourne and going to the races. But one thing is certain is the best horses in Australia like run in the Cox Plate, and like it's easy to be a narc and all that sort of stuff when you've been on horses every day. But it's genuinely the best racing and the best horses. So there's heaps of like memories. I said about the 1992 Cox Plate, which was
James wasn't born.
Which was probably, when you look back, was like it was a field of champions, and obviously had that. Was it 92? The fall, naturalism fell, and there was the protest and all that sort of stuff. Like you look back at some of those horses and the credentials of those horses that raced, and Northerly and Sunlight, all the champions. So will we see? We didn't see a champion win it last year.
Well,
we saw a champion,
but it went to Europe and won.
I was going to
Group
say,
One's at the top level.
If you haven't by now, the top left is obviously last year's Cox Plate winner, State of Rest. And I know Jack still hasn't forgotten about it.
The top right is one of the most memorable Cox Plates I've been to. It was an amazing horse in the parade. It was back when we were doing like proper Mountie Mail.
And the second ligament all up too.
Yeah, I was doing it with Peter.
Yeah.
And we're backing up very hungover still from the Geelong Cup on the Wednesday, where Pistol had that stupid, ridiculous bet on one of Bob Peters' Cerise and Whites, like Parrot. He wasn't even speaking, but he's like betting still.
He was like that last night.
And then, but he backed Liz Gajot top tote, and it was like $4 in a 220.
But it was a massive steamer, as good as steamer.
It was unbelievable. The best we've seen.
Well, I think the bottom two on the screen there might make people go and look at the history books to find out what they were, because I wouldn't say they're household names. The bottom two.
No, maybe the bottom right, maybe. But,
maybe.
Well, obviously, it was Pinka, the bottom left. Does have a
is it El Segundo?
An El Segundo.
Yeah,
yes.
There you go.
Yeah, Pinka. They named that race after that. It won at Cranbourne. It won a benchmark 78 at Cranbourne in the lead up, so they named the race after it.
And I said to Shane, I did say to Shane when I said we've got this competition running tonight, and I just said, how did Pinka win the Cox Plate? And Shane answered, Willow.
Yeah,
he's forgotten.
No, I did.
It was only an hour ago.
Because before I left this morning, I had racing.com on, and they had Willow talking his way through the race. Like he lost his spot and everything. Like he half murdered it. And then he's got back to the fence ride for luck. And then
you watch waymore.com when you travel, don't you?
Yeah, well, I just, love listening to BZ and
watch.com.
I've got to catch up with Richo for lunch soon. So
anyway, we will move on. We won't look back at the past champions.
No, we won't. We'll look forward, James.
We'll look forward, and will a champion be the winner of the big race on Saturday? We'll take a look at the markets. We've got Zaki, $4.20 on Thunderstruck, 12, Alligator Blood. A few question marks over whether he will run or not. I believe we'll know before
the races
kick off tomorrow night.
Is that right?
He's lame, I think. So the vets have
the
vets have to check him again tomorrow, and there'll be a decision made tomorrow afternoon. Mr. Brightside, 19, Moonga, 31, Gold Trip backing up after still not sure how he lost the Caulfield Cup last week at 13.
He's a deep thinker, I reckon.
Laws of Industries, 41, Young Werther, 51, Maximal, 41, the Champ and the Mo, $2.40, Profondo, 71, and the Overseas Raider, El Brogdon. Is that how you say? Anyway, $7.
El Brogdon.
Let's have a look at the map. Jack, what's going to play out with the speed map there on Saturday?
Well, everyone who likes Zaki thinks she's going to go a lot faster than she has gone every time she's sat on it, which grays me right up. Now, what grays me completely up is this news that I've just got right now that Alligator Blood might not run. If he doesn't run, I'd warm big time to Zaki because she'll control the race, J-Car, and do whatever she wants.
Oh, that's a scary proposition.
Yeah, but grand final day, that scares the shit out of me.
This map of yours is scary, Bob.
I anticipate, I heard from G Hall on SEN track Giddy Up that Mick Price said, I'm Thunderstruck, it's likely to go forward. So it has to go forward to live up to what he said. And then what does that do to the horse? I don't know, but it does create some tempo. I think the PR horse is Animo, which makes the race a little bit boring betting-wise. El Bodegon, the tip is it rolls forward and puts itself into races. Mr. Brightside's a big loser from the map, from the barrier draw. I don't know where he's going to get to in run. But I think he's primed to sort of peak.
Doesn't that just mean he goes back and hopes that they chop him up?
Yeah, but I don't think he's good enough to do that. But I do think the stable's being underestimated. So he won the Fian and he was into the Cox Plate. So it's like foot off the accelerator a little bit for this horse. He was very good in the Might and Power, and he's like humming along. He can like run a big race, and he's suited on a wet deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought from his map, he sort of, I don't know if he needs to go back to last because he probably can't make up that much ground on this good of a horse. But
it's just such a grey up because I'm happy to sort of pen on Thunderstruck to an extent and Mr. Brightside at the current prices off the map. But if Shane's on Twitter, guys, again, he couldn't help it. He went, Alan, you go 47 minutes without it. I'll tweet that. He's back. But if Alligator Blood was to come out of this race, this speed map changes dramatically. And if I was in the camp of Mr. Brightside, I'd say let's roll a dice and put ourselves into this race.
But if you're saying, I just think that's murder if they want to send on Thunderstruck sort of forward.
I think they've come to the conclusion they can't run past Animo, so they need to have a head start on it.
Get a head start. We'll have a look at
which is to Shane's point last week about the Everest. Why this is the greatest race because they're not trying to run third or second and maximize prize money. They're here to win it or lose it. That's what the Cox Plate's about, and the great Cox Plates like Mackay Divas, they're 8 abreast at the Legends Bar.
She was out. Glenn Boss was out high-fiving the crowd. We will have a look at the Might and Power, though, where the majority of the field come through. So we did see Alligator Blood and Zaki go toe-to-toe this day with On Thunderstruck sort of in there behind them. Animo, as publicised, sort of crabbed around the corner there at Caulfield and didn't look like he could win and got off the canvas and got over the top of them. So obviously you're saying, Jack, if Alligator Blood's not there, it gives Zaki a pretty easy lead from barrier 1.
Easy lead, but I think that was still playing in the hands of Animo. Obviously the last couple of weeks I've gone and tried to lay the best horse on the weekend. I'm not going to lay Animo. I love this horse. It's the only horse I've ever sort of like loved in recent memories after Boban. Like he was a champion well, not a champion, but a very, very good 2-year-old of 1,200 meters. He should have won the Cox Plate last year in my mind. He won a huge Caulfield Guineas. He's done an amazing job this preparation. He maps to do whatever he needs to do, and they've added that tactical speed and versatility to him this preparation. This is the grand final. They are the most airborne camp in Australia. They've got the best stock. It's got the best rider. And I think it's like the best horse of this generation. So I think he's going to piss in and win. I think it's going to be a glorious moment and something to savour. I think there's a chink, though, a little bit to the might and power form. Like you look, the horses on that replay was Benno, nonconformist.
Yeah.
Benno was a number in the Caulfield Cup.
Thank God.
May have pulled up lame.
Yeah, well, yeah. May have been going to cost me.
Look, I'll just talk to the chinks in Animo for a moment. Obviously, you could look at that Queen Elizabeth run at the end of his 3-year-old season where he gave up.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, these big boys are too hard for me. It was a heavy track that day, admittedly. And he's coming through, 3 slowly run races. And he showed brilliance to pick up a couple of other horses. So you go back to that Randwick run. I know it could have possibly been an end of prep run, but and 3-year-old, took on the big boys, got smashed, and has come through it's done enough, right? Slowly run races. Obviously, you can argue that it wobbled at Caulfield. I would argue that it got left flat-footed and wants 2,000.
This is more about this horse. So.
But again, there's nothing in the map that says this horse is going to have to overcome anything.
That's
because it just finds the perfect spot. And we've spoke about this ad nauseum, James, about Jamie on leaders. And if Alligator Blood comes out, it's going to play in Zaki. I don't think it will. Zaki has been rated on wet tracks by J-Mac where he's just been, I'm on the best horse, I'm running along, I'm not giving anything else a chance to outsprint him. She sat outside Alligator Blood the other day, I think because Alligator Blood, like when they jumped, Alligator Blood was a length in front. So she was never pushing on. It's not a style anyway, Alligator Blood at best can dictate the tempo here by going and sitting at a girth. Like, I don't think Jamie will dictate the tempo if Alligator Blood's in the race. I think Alligator might.
It's not like...
But I also think there's a horse like Profondo that could possibly go forward here.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to throw a spanner, wouldn't it?
But even if Thunderstruck goes forward, Zara's not a run fast jockey. Chad Schofield could. I just think she's favourite to go slower than is suited. And
if we agree that she's going to go slower than suited, what we have to look at the race then is what's going to be strongest. What's going to be the strongest?
But I think even if she goes ballistic, Animo failed once. He also almost won the Cox Plate last year, and he handles suicidal tempo. And the Cox Plate last year, they were still figuring him out. It looked like he's off the bit, but I've asked around and learned about the horse. He would just be so relaxed that they had to wake him up.
And obviously,
he's maturing.
Yeah, and obviously he's maturing horse as well. Obviously, there's no question about that. There's a few horses here that have got completely zero, less than none.
Yeah,
and but they're not the what was that 3-year-old that ran in the race? I think it was it last year. The
Castelvecchio.
No, was it the
Yankee Rose?
No. I think it was last year. The 3-year-old, the front runner that just went Grand Slam. Well, there's no 3-year-old pacemaker in this race, Jack.
Pacemaker.
There's no
another hard luck story like Russian Conquest.
But what I'm saying is,
what
I'm saying is, there's no lightweight horse that races on speed that's coming through at 3 that says, you know what, I've got 49 and a half, almost like Profondo did that year, where he had no weight at 3. Castelvecchio, sorry. Had no weight that year, and they took off early with no weight, and looked the winner for a stride, maybe, but still looked the winner. There's no, where is that? So we're going to get to a race here where we're probably going to have Zaki leading if Alligator Blood comes into the race, and then everything else is going to go righto. I'm clear air from the 600, and we're 10 abreast. Who's going to be the strongest late?
Yeah.
That's how I think it's going to play out. This is race 29, is it? Race 19 at Moonee Valley with some rain around.
17.
Remember and I think the same thing happened when Winks won her first Cox Plate, maybe, when they all come off the fence and Hugh just goes.
Hugh did a bit of test riding.
Yeah. Hugh did the test runs.
Okay,
anyway,
the import, Shane, El Bodegon. Talk to me.
Yep. I think it's got like a great map. I really do. If it's going forward, an Alligator Blood's going to come across, and it's probably going to end up 1-1. But they'll keep pushing forward on that horse.
I think some of these horses like it though are a bit chinky in that if it is like the rail's dead by now, J-Mac will hold the 1-1.
How's it chinky this horse? Like there's
I mean, like it's not going to get the 1-1. If J-Mac wants 1-1, he's going to get it.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's question marks about you've mapped Thunderstruck forward and whatever else, which is completely through me.
I just listened to
El Bodegon definitely goes forward. It crosses Gold Trip. It crosses everything inside it, basically.
Can it win?
Zaki. Yeah, purely. It can. It definitely can. It definitely can.
And it brings over just as good, maybe if not better form than State of Rest last year.
Really?
Who everybody was penning. It was coming from America. It was coming from dirt. Can't win. And we've seen these international horses come over in these big races, the Cox Plate, Melbourne Cup, Caulfield Cup. And the market tells the story late, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, with this horse it will. And I did some pricing on this race based on them coming for El Bodegon. Like I think it's $750, is it, or something?
I've just put up $850 for El Bodegon. If you want some, come and get some, and also $460 for Zaki.
So we have seen in the past, James, we've seen the European steam.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that what we're calling it?
We've seen the European steam regularly in this race.
Did you see the European steam last night with Pistol?
Pistol took me to a French restaurant last night that I've spoken to people that have lived in Melbourne their whole lives. They've never heard of the place. It was like underground of an underground. And it was very European, Jack. I can promise you that. Anyhow, we've seen the European steam. And when we see it, they run enormous, right? So if it firms off the back of the European form.
Sir Dragonet.
Prime example.
Liska Show was Japanese.
So what's the drifters, right?
Japanese steam's even scarier than the European steam.
Yeah, those Japs are sick. So if it does steam, what's going to drift out? So that's where I'm looking at what are my betting opportunities in the race? Yeah. Like if you want to play around our Bogadon because it's a little pocket rocket or whatever else and it's got Ollie.
I think the Australian horses, the great Australian horses, are superior over 2,000 metres away for age.
So this is a really good question that you bring up because where are the great horses here? Zaki and Animo are the two that have been there and done it, and that's about it.
Yeah, but that's it. Animo's a 4-year-old. Look, like he's a freak.
Okay, so look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think Animo, is the local. Obvious handles them. It's beaten these when it was gone on the corner at Caulfield. It's easy to say that it's been here and all but done it this time last year. Camp's flying, ticks every box. It's got a great map. Can anything locally? I suppose the question is, can anything locally improve to beat it? Like, can Gold Trip? Can they pull something off with the? I want to quote this to you, James, because I've done a bit of homework before the show. You might find that hard to believe.
While you're looking for that, it probably has to, if you're saying if there's any local, it has to come outside that might and power, doesn't it? But he beat them 3 weeks in between runs, off a little setback. Like if he was losing over 2,000 metres to these guys,
it's a great point.
In the might and power.
It was a great point because I had a question mark on Animo off that setback. And it's still,
I think you and I both did on the show, and he still beat them after losing a couple of lengths on the turn, looked on, still picked him up and beat him. So this is his grand final. He's the one who improves. I don't think locally any of them in that race can beat him.
I think there's a chance that Gold Trip's a nonny.
I don't.
It's travelled up to win.
It literally ran past everything in the Caulfield Cup, and Durston's
And then
come.
as soon as it got
its,
past a horse, it wanted all it wanted was the fence, and got beaten by Durston. Like it was home.
If anyone's watching the show and
Cool.
yeah, I don't agree with that. If anyone's watching the show and doesn't have time to do form and doesn't want to buy the mailbag set to win, there's a blind bet here. It's the Mar Eustace stable. Blinker's first time the last 6 months. They're 15 winners from 61 runners. That's 24% winning strike rate at 35% pot.
Look at the homework.
Yeah,
right.
But what's the pot? What's the pot in group races?
So here's a Kieran Maher, David Eustace horse coming out of a Caulfield Cup to a Cox Plate, blinkers on,
Jamie
rock
Spencer.
hard fit. If it's wet, it comes into the race. If it's wet, if it's dry, it can't win. I'll say that.
Yeah.
If it's wet, because we're talking, you're basically potting Zaki leading, Alligator Blood outside at Mr. Bright side on Thunderstruck. They can't beat Animo, right? That's what that's what the form suggests off that week. So what else? Young Werter.
I've been drinking too much bath.
Young Werter.
Young Werter. Young Werter
Werter
started $8.50 in the Turnbull versus Gold Trips $3.70.
We haven't mentioned Young Werter. We haven't mentioned Laws of Indices. We haven't mentioned Maximal. Profondo could be a superstar if we trained it. Our Bodegon by default has to go in. Moanga wanted to be touted as the best last you've ever seen in your punting career last time. This is going to come down to track conditions. If it's wet, I think these hardened stayers come into the race if it's wet.
Yeah, but if it's
I don't know that Animo's a hardened stayer.
He's not. He's a brilliant, dynamic weight for age horse that gets a mile to 2,000 meters, and he's better than all these horses. So if he turns up and goes to the platform that he's building for himself, he's going to kill him.
One day I'll be able to import a $2 million
like
horse. One day I'll be able to afford to import a $2 million horse that ran in the Arc to run in a Cox Plate, and I would make it a staying test. And I'm blinkers on, and I'm widest and making sure it's a staying test. This is not going to be a sit sprint from the 800. I think this will be a real slog, but you could argue it was kind of like that last year in Animo, all but one.
Yeah, but are you implying that blinkers on is like this was a plan?
I'm not saying it's a plan as such, but what I am saying is the camp makes it work for them.
But it might be like blinkers on at a Burren Beat Maiden.
And you know what? It could have been we're going to go to the Melbourne Cup and ride it quiet and hope to finish top 5. They've said, F that, we're putting blinkers on and we're going to a Cox Plate.
Full credit to them for doing that.
And the camp, you got to trust it.
I think that the horse adds a lot of interest to the race. And despite it being a nonny, I think it's a really big chance of winning. I think it's going to run a big race. I think it's suited by the track conditions, suited by whatever tempo it gets from that good barrier. I just think it doesn't it's not Charlie Sheen. It's a fence sitter.
I think there's a tail and then a tail to this race looking at those races that we just discussed.
Anyway, let's roll our top 5, roll our best. And
let's have a look at the top 5 and Jack will roll 1 or 2 more out. I think there's only one so far, so we want to give you some sort of spoils.
No, we're at 116%,
Shane,
mate.
Your Cox Plate top 5, please.
Yeah, look, I think Animo will still get it done. Obviously we spoke about
all that talk. He's got a 5th pick, Gold Trip.
No, I'm talking Animo. Like I was trying to make a case of why I could get beat. Obviously, being objective in my analysis, James. But it just gets the map.
Look at him out there.
It just gets the map right, and it's going to be it's the right horse with the right map. It doesn't have to overcome anything this week. Is what I think. Right. I think El Bodegon purely out of the fact that that the race that Zaki and I'm Thunderstruck come out of is I'm not saying inferior, but I think if it just brings its best European form, it'll go forward. Maybe Alligator Blood has to cross it to get outside the leader, which lobs him into the 1-1, which makes him a chance. Zaki, I think leads, and if it rains, that's perfectly fine. It's really Jamie's race, I think. She determines a lot in
Jamie's
this
the most
race.
powerful rider
from the
Which
gate.
that's scary because it's not her go, is it?
And
So,
I'm thunderstruck. Who you couldn't possibly knock off its last start, and Gold Trip purely because the camp have decided to put blinkers on and go to the Cox Plate is good enough for me.
There you go. There's Shane's top 5. We'll have a look at Gabby. Top 5. She isn't here tonight. She'll be with the mailbag team full time as of next week. I'm Thunderstruck on top. Animo, El Bodegon, Gold Trip, and her favourite.
I think you could almost give Alligator Blood an extra little tick just because Gab's finally jumped off. Like that's what racing does to you.
I think she's put in the top 5 because she has like a genuine connection to the horse.
Yes.
Gabby was like the attending vet nurse when it had its operation. So, Gab, you're being biased.
And we'll have a look at my top 5 for the big one. Animo on top, El Bodegon.
It's a great photo.
I'll definitely be winning on both of those. Mr. Brightside, I was knocking him thinking, 2000 wasn't his go, but that was a huge run. Map scares me of Jack's map earlier. Zaki up there, and I'm Thunderstruck. But if they lead, he's got none in my eye. If they want to push forward, he's got none. Like his only chance is coming from the back or sort of midfield, a bit worse than midfield with Mr. Brightside. And Jack, your top 5.
My top 5 is I think Animo's just a superstar. Just sit back and enjoy greatness. This is a very, very special horse, a great rider, great trainer. So I think it's going to piss in and it's going to be historic. Zaki can go really, really well if they put the foot down. I think the horse is set to peak. I think Alligator Blood, obviously all they're set to peak, but I think Alligator Blood, the run at Sandown showed him that he was legitimate and could get there. And I wouldn't be surprised if last start wouldn't worry about it. I think he'll improve. Gold Trip is suited map-wise. I like it back 24, back to 2000, blinkers on, like Shane said. Just trying to wind him up before. I love the horse here. I just don't think it's a winner. And then the import, just to be safe. How would you know? The time form people tell me it's a little bit below what we're used to sort of receiving to these sort of races, but I just wait and let the market tell me how good it is late because they're often always right in the big races with the imports.
Always are. Now, that is our preview of the 2 Group 1s. We'll take a look at our value bets for the weekend. Shane.
I think Great Barrier Reef is going around. I think.
Yes.
Well, it was when I did the form.
Shane, I'll tweet that. He'll tweet something if it scratches for you guys at home.
Yeah.
Gabs with Randwick.
It has been scratched. It has been scratched from the Friday night race. So, but I think it is in Sydney, but it's in the Saturday race there at the moment.
Well, I'll tell you what they will do, James, is
they'll place it
to win, and it's got J Mac on here with a great map. I wanted to be on it last start off that little hidden 5th, the start before they've scratched last week to come here. So if they run it, it's there to win.
Gabs head to Randwick. She's with race 6 on Saturday, number 1, Thronbone.
And I'm going Friday night at the Valley, race 4, number 9 in the race that Great Barrier Reef has been scratched in. You can get $17. Look, the Barrier 9, if it was drawn in, I'd be drawn in a few. I'd be very, very confident. It was off the track, but ran super last start. So nice little each way play at the $17. And your value, Jack, was
Climbing Star. I'm not sure where it was, actually. Can't remember, but it's going to go good.
And our best bets for the weekend, Shane.
Yeah, I'm backing Willow to ensure he stays in the running line and gets clear air, like he did the start before where he sat 3 and 4 deep and still nearly should have won. He's a superstar, Willow. He's a good person, and I'm happy to be on him.
And Gab is in Barclay Square's corner after a slashing run in the Caulfield Guineas. Saturday, race 7, Berkeley Square at 2:40. And I'm happy to be with the up-and-coming sprinter, Greece. There's another one that Jack took on, was it, Shane?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on.
Jack took on Greece at Geelong when it was $1.90 to $1.50 or something.
Said it's actually $1.50 out to $1.90.
Well, anyway, it won by 7. So, yeah,
and
just typical Jack.
it doesn't look a good race to mine. I'm happy to follow it at $3.40.
And there's a bit of confidence from the barn too, according to our friends at SEN. I think they had Kieran or Dave or one of them on anyway, saying it's probably their best chance all weekend, which is not right because Bella Nicotina is.
And Jack, your best of the weekend.
Arkansas race 1, number 1 Saturday. Get your day started right. Ollie, big trialer. Trialled really well on the heavy track. Full credit, Lins. I think it's an outstanding way to start your week.
I can't wait to enjoy Ollie over this spring because we're talking about Ollie last night. It's 20 years ago since Media Puzzle. 20 years, James.
Jesus. Just the goat.
I thought I was 30 last night the way I was carrying on. And then we spoke about Media Puzzle being 20 years ago.
Shane's in Melbourne for at least another week. So you feel like you're 30 right now?
Yeah, no.
If we could, I'd run a market, but we'll get an update next week. I'd say start with a 4 at least.
I'll be at Manikato, I'll be at Cox Plate, I'll be at Derby Day, and looking forward to having a beer with every single person that watched the show, which is 7.
So send Shane a DM. He loves hearing from you all, and he'd love to have a beer at the races. Well, we do apologise for the slight delay early on, punters, but we did get there in the end. As always, thanks to our sponsors, puntingform.com.au, the database that all the boys at the Mailbag team use, and our bookie friends at baggybet.com. If you haven't got an app, click the link below, download the Baggybet app, gamble responsibly, but get involved and have a bit of fun over the weekend. Any final words before we say goodbye?
It's been a long one. On me out.
Shane?
No, not really, James. But thanks for asking me for a final word all the same. But it's going to be a great week of racing at Moonee Valley. It's going to feel like a week to me anyway. So it's Friday, Saturday backup is
it's big.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Smells good and looks good right now. What will you look like next Thursday?
All right, punters, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Bye for now.